This machine proves that buying companies doesn't buy success. Exactly 9 years after purchasing the Cleveland Tractor Company, better known as Cletrac, Oliver released in 1953 the OC6 crawler tractor, a machine designed to replace Cletrac's E model, first released in 1934. Mainly based on the Oliver 77 tractor, the OC6 could be purchased when it was released for $5,200 for a gas unit and $5,900 for a diesel model, both powered by Oliver Waukesha engines. Rated at 45 horsepower, the Oliver OC6 could be ordered with a 3-point hitch that was optionally available at $325. Interestingly, you would get a $25 discount if electric lights were not wanted. Built in Cleveland, Ohio, the OC6 was discontinued in 1960. The same year, White Motor Corporation purchased Oliver, which clearly never really understood or mastered the crawler market, despite Cletrac's amazing history. I'm sure your seeder doesn't cover 2.5 acres per minute, does it? Located in New South Wales, Australia, the Tarrawingi farm, owned by the Zell family, is famous for two things: its hospitality and its incredible 214-foot air seeder, also known as the world's largest planter. Pulled by a Baldwin DP 600 tractor massively upgraded to 800 horsepower, the giant seeder was first designed to be pulled by two Deere 9400Ts running 24 hours a day to get the crops into the ground. The tractor and the air seeder work at around 5 miles per hour, with the rig covering 2.5 acres each minute. Over a typical 18-hour day of seeding, the huge rig is able to seed about 2,500 acres. Located in a remote area, the Tarrawingi property covers 47,000 acres to farm wheat, barley, and chickpeas. Looking at this, it seems like there's only one piece of equipment missing in the picture: good old Big Bud. Welcome to Virginia, where 97% of farms remain family-owned. If you think about America's top farming states, Virginia might not be the first to come to mind. However, while it doesn't boast the largest farmland in the U.S., the state has a strong and diverse agricultural presence, excelling in several key sectors. In 2024, Virginia is home to 41,500 farms, with 97% of them being family-owned, according to VA's Department of Agriculture. These operations span roughly 7.7 million acres across the state. With poultry, cattle, soybeans, peanuts, corn, and tobacco as top commodities, Virginia's agriculture contributes over $82 billion annually to the state's economy and supports more than 382,000 jobs. With an average farm size of about 185 acres, Virginia exports about $5 billion worth of products every year. On average, 16 cents of every consumer dollar spent on food goes to the farmer. Put a nasty-sounding V8 into a tractor and you get the mighty 1568. In October 1973, International began production of the 1568 to replace the 1468. Part of the 66 series, the tractor was released at a time when the Farmall name was slowly but surely being phased out. The beastie 1568 was in fact a 1566 featuring an International DV 550 truck engine rated at 172 horsepower. The tractors sold for $24,000 on average when it came out. Known for its unique sound and pretty high fuel consumption, the International 1568 mainly appealed to the younger farmers of the time who liked the hot rod-style twin exhausts and the unmistakable roar of the V8 engine. In 1976, IH stopped production of the 1568. Only 862 units of the row crop tractor left the Rock Island factory, making it a highly sought-after and rare piece of equipment today. This company invented the wheel loader, and then this happened. Inventor of the world's first wheel loader in 1939, company Huff, out of Libertyville, Illinois, is still remembered today for manufacturing one of the most emblematic machines from the past century, the fantastic Payloader. First designed for farm use, Payloaders took the market by storm in the 1940s, and by 1950, the brand was offering a full line of loaders when Michigan was still 4 years away from releasing its first production unit, and Caterpillar a full decade away. In 1952, Huff was sold to International Harvester for $7.8 million. In '59, the famous H-Series was introduced to market, including this beautiful H60, recently spotted by yours truly in Virginia. Payloaders kept doing well until the beginning of the 80s when IH sold most of its construction equipment assets to Dresser, which later sold them to Komatsu, and Komatsu subsequently sold them to Huta Stalowa Wola, a company owned by the government of Poland. These are the best-selling Farmalls of all time. Released in 1951, the Farmall Super C was a gigantic success for International Harvester. Replacing the Farmall C, the 26-horsepower tractor was discontinued in 1954 after nearly 100,000 units were sold. First produced in 1947, the Farmall Cub quickly became a favorite for small farms and light-duty tasks. More than 200,000 units of the amazing little Cub were sold by the time production ended in 1979. By far one of the most iconic models, the Farmall M was produced from 1939 to 1952. 270,000 units were sold at a price ranging between $1,400 and $2,600 US. Manufactured for 14 years from 1939, the H is the most sold Farmall of all time. A total of 391,227 units rolled off the line of International Harvester's Rock Island factory. So who still runs a 420C around the farm? Yeah, this one. In 1956, John Deere released the 420 model, not only available as a regular utility tractor, but also as an agricultural crawler tractor under the reference 420C. Built in Dubuque, Iowa, the little machine was a gem. Running with a 28-horsepower two-cylinder gasoline engine, the John Deere 420C was an ideal offering able to deliver in various applications such as farming, forestry, and construction when mounted with a dozer blade. Selling for $2,300 in 1956, pretty much the same as the wheeled 420, the crawler tractor was sold in two versions, one with 4 track rollers and one with 5, plus 3 different track shoe widths. With a weight of 4,800 pounds or 2.1 metric tons, the Deere 420C was discontinued in 1958 after a total of 18,000 units were sold. It was replaced by the not-so-successful 430C. So why did Caterpillar get rid of its Challenger line? Here's what happened. In 1986, Caterpillar introduced the Challenger 65, the brand's very first rubber-belted tractor. Seen as a significant milestone in CAT's history, the line would end up being surprisingly short-lived. But why? Constant and costly work in progress for CAT, the unique-looking Challenger tractors faced immediate trouble in a sluggish market, as an economic downturn had already sharply reduced demand and cut into the brand's profits when the line launched. Struggling bad, Caterpillar quickly recognized that its dealer network wasn't well suited for marketing to farmers. By the 1990s, it was clear that competing with well-established brands like Deere and Case would be an impossible battle. Too expensive to develop and way too difficult to market in a highly competitive sector, the entire Challenger line of rubber-belted tractors was sold to Agco in 2002, only 16 years after the 65 model was introduced to market. So who still runs a beautiful Massey Ferguson 97? Released in 1962, the beautiful Massey Ferguson 97 was actually produced by Minneapolis-Moline and was based off 2 popular yellow tractors, the 2-wheel drive G705 and the 4-wheel drive G706. Selling for close to $7,000 brand new when it came out, the equivalent of $73,000 in today's money, the Massey 97 was equipped with a 6-cylinder Minneapolis engine rated at 112 horsepower. Fairly beastie and highly modern for its time, the standard tread Massey Ferguson 97 featured a 5-speed gear transmission. The tractor could be ordered with a cab, a pretty luxurious option back in the early 1960s. The Massey Ferguson 97 was discontinued in 1965. Interestingly, the red tractor sold for $1,000 less than the Minneapolis models, despite being built on the same production line. This is the story of one of the most important Deere tractors ever. In 1960, John Deere released the 8010, a tractor seen as a colossal milestone in the farming industry. Way ahead of the competition, the machine would unfortunately suffer from expensive service problems, leading to a recall campaign. First articulated agricultural tractor and first John Deere ever to offer more than 80 horsepower, the sublime 8010 faced a major issue, an overheating transmission causing the seals to leak and eventually ruining the clutch. Starting from 1961, every 8010 was recalled, and Deere decided to rename every unit as the 8020 model, selling back then for $30,000 or $320,000 in today's money. In 1964, John Deere discontinued the four-wheel drive 215 horsepower tractor after a total of 100 units were ever built. All 8010s made became 8020s through the recall, except for a single one. The Super M is not a tractor, that's a piece of history. Introduced to market in 1952, the Farmall Super M was designed as an upgrade to the popular Farmall M, released in 1939. Only produced for 2 years, the Super M has since become a legendary piece of iron. Much more powerful than the M, International's Farmall Super M produced 44 drawbar horsepower versus 33 horsepower for its predecessor, and featured a larger 264 cubic inch four-cylinder gasoline engine. Variations of the Super M included the Super MD, a diesel version of the tractor, and the Super MTA, a unit equipped with a torque amplifier and independent PTO, only built in 1954, the final production year. After 2 years only on the market, the fantastic Super M was replaced by the Farmall 400, which, once again, would only live for 2 years. A total of 57,000 units of the Super M were produced, all variants included. There's a reason why they called this tractor the Beast from the East. USSR manufacturer Kirovets released in 1962 what would then become a legendary machine in the farming industry, the K700, a four-wheel drive, heavy-duty tractor that took well over 1 decade to develop. Powered by a 200-horsepower 8-cylinder engine, the Kirovets K700 had a weight of 12.8 metric tons, making it one of the largest tractors produced in the Soviet Union when it was introduced to market. The machine was upgraded to the K700A version in 1975, this time powered by a 225-horsepower engine. The A also included larger tires for better traction and increased fuel tank capacity. The K700 served as a base for the popular K701 model, also known as the Belarus 7100 in America, from 1978. Over 400,000 units of the machine and its variants were built. This insane tractor had 2 clutch pedals, 2 throttles, and 2 shift levers. Kinze Manufacturing out of Iowa was only founded for a few years when John Kinzenbaugh gave himself a noble mission, repowering John Deere tractors with Detroit diesel power plants. And this is how the Kinze Big Blue 640 was born. Totally unique, the phenomenal Big Blue was an articulated twin-engine four-wheel drive tractor boasting 640 horsepower through 2 GM Detroit 8 V71 supercharged diesels, each driving a separate axle. The differentials in Kinze's 640 Beast came from John Deere 5020 and 6030 tractors. Designed to pull a 12-bottom plow, the amazing Big Blue featured 2 clutch pedals, 2 throttles, and 2 shift levers. Able to plow up to 12 acres per hour, the Kinze Big Blue, also nicknamed Double Trouble, was first unveiled in 1974 and was personally used by John for years before it became a centerpiece at Kinze's Innovation Center in Williamsburg, Iowa. So why is Caterpillar named Caterpillar? That's the story behind it. From the late 1890s, Benjamin Holt was looking for ways to improve the performance of steam tractors. And in 1904, Holt came up with the very first successful track-type tractor prototype. But that's only the beginning of the story. During a demonstration in England the same year, a British soldier admiring the invention approached Holt and told him, "Your machine moves like a caterpillar." This would be the start of something that would change the world forever. Recognizing the marketing potential of the name, Holt began referring to his crawler tractors as Caterpillar tractors. The name quickly caught on and became synonymous with the machines, as 2 men were about to make history. In 1925, Holt Manufacturing Company merged with the CL Best Tractor Company, and when time came to pick a name, nothing sounded better than Caterpillar. And so a random name in a dictionary simply became the largest machinery brand ever.
International Harvester presents the Farmall Cub.
In 1947, International launched the Cub, a unique tractor designed with a specific goal, replacing horses and mules on small farms which couldn't afford larger tractors or simply didn't need them. This was a revolution. Powered by a 4-cylinder engine rated at 10 horsepower, the Farmall Cub was built 20% smaller than the Farmall A released in 1939. In 1957, International introduced the Cub Lowboy, a lower version of the standard Cub. Available with all sorts of implements, the Farmall Cub became the International Cub in 1964. The designation would last until 1975, year from which the small tractor was renamed as the new International Cub. In 1979, International discontinued the Cub after selling 245,000 units of the machine, all references included, making it one of the most legendary products ever offered by the manufacturer. Is the Massey 333 only half as good as a Farmall 666? Replacing the 33 tractor released in 1952, the Massey Harris 333 was launched in late 1955. Selling for $3,000 at the time, it is now seen as a staple from Massey's glorious past. On top of the standard gasoline engine, the Massey Harris 333 was offered with distillate, diesel, and LP gas versions. It could be purchased with single front wheel, dual tricycle, or adjustable width utility axle. Technologically well advanced when it came out, the Massey Harris 333 tractor featured a 12-volt electrical system as well as a 2-range shift transmission, giving a total of 10 speeds forward and 2 in reverse. Built in Racine, Wisconsin, the 333 was discontinued during the rebranding to Massey Ferguson in 1958. A total of 2,748 units were ever produced, all types included. This is the most controversial tractor ever. Do you know why? First affordable mass-produced tractor, the Fordson Model F was accessible to many small farmers, but this led to significant labor disputes as it contributed to a decrease in the demand for farm laborers, putting many out of work. The Model F was known for its dangerous tendency to tip over backward if wheels got stuck, especially when pulling heavy loads or plowing. This flaw resulted in numerous accidents and fatalities, leading to widespread criticism. The Fordson's low price undercut many other tractor manufacturers at the time, leading to major shifts in the agricultural machinery market. While this made tractors more accessible, it also drove several smaller companies out of business. The Fordson was exported to the Soviet Union, where it played a significant role in the collectivization of agriculture under Stalin. The tractor became associated with the harsh policies of forced collectivization and the suffering of millions of people. This is the story of the short-lived Custom tractors. Custom Manufacturing Corporation was formed in Shelbyville, Indiana in 1944 by 3 members of the National Farm Machinery Cooperative. The first Custom tractors were marketed through an agreement with the Diamond T Truck Company. In 1947, the Model B and C were launched, both powered by Chrysler 6-cylinder engines rated at 52 horsepower. In 1948, the Model E and H tractors were released, also running with Chrysler power plants. Over the years, Custom built tractors under a variety of names, including the Lear Big Boy tractor for Lear Equipment, the Rockall for Rock Oil Company, and the Regal Custom, which was sold by Regal Motors of Brampton, Ontario, Canada. In 1950, the Harry A. Lowther Company acquired Custom and began producing tractors for Montgomery Ward and Company. Lowther sold the business in '52, and shortly after, George Push bought the rights to the Custom name, only to sell the assets later that year. So do you see a tractor in this machine or just a motor cultivator? World War II was just over when Allis-Chalmers released the G tractor in 1948, a machine engineered mainly for truck gardeners cultivating delicate crops. The piece of iron is unique in the annals of classic tractors. Powered by a 4-cylinder Continental gasoline engine mounted behind the rear axle, the amazing Allis-Chalmers G was designed to cultivate up to 1.5 miles per hour and could move at speeds up to 7 miles per hour. With only 10 horsepower available, the 1,500-pound Allis-Chalmers G was clearly limited to light tasks, even though brand new units came equipped with a 12-inch one-bottom plow, which back then was far from being an obsolete tool. In 1955, production of the G, which sold for $970 at the time, was terminated after a total of 30,000 units were sold. So do you see a tractor in this machine or just a motor cultivator? Let me know. So when was the last time you ran a 686? Released in 1976, The International 686 is now a classic machine made in a great era for tractors, where competition was so fierce among the top companies that all of them were kept under pressure to innovate and improve. Pretty identical to the 666 launched in 1972, the 65 horsepower 686 sold for $14,000 when it reached full production, the equivalent of $77,000 in today's standards. As close as it gets to perfection, the International 686 benefited from three prior ancestors. The simply designed tractor is known for carrying unbeatable hydraulics, an unkillable transmission, and a trustable engine. In 1979, IH replaced the 312 diesel engine originally powering the 686 with the 310 model. The following year, the tractor was discontinued after 6,000 units were produced. So who still runs this beauty? This is how legendary manufacturer Allis-Chalmers was killed. Founded in 1901, Allis-Chalmers was a big name in various industries for well over 60 years. But after being part of the insane post-World War II boom in agriculture and construction, things went downhill for the manufacturer. Facing fierce competition in every sector in the mid-70s, Allis-Chalmers joined forces with Fiat to form Fiat Allis in 1974. But the company was still running behind technologically as the 1980s approached. Completely drowned in a climate of rapid economic change, Allis-Chalmers was forced to sell its lawn and garden equipment division in 1983. In '85, the company would get rid of three of its main business lines, including the farm equipment line. After selling its filtration business in 1988, Allis-Chalmers lost itself in the Agco-Allis venture, and by 1998, what remained of the manufacturing businesses were divested. In 1999, the company closed its Milwaukee offices, and that was it. So who still runs a good old Fordson Supermajor? Part of Ford's popular Major series, first introduced in 1945, the Supermajor tractor was launched in 1960 and was designed as a successor to the highly popular Fordson Power Major, released in 1958. Very similar to its Power Major predecessor, the Fordson Supermajor tractor was built in Dagenham, England, and was powered by optional diesel or gasoline power plants rated at 54 horsepower and delivered 47 PTO horsepower. The tractor was imported into the United States as the Ford Supermajor 5000 to provide a large diesel tractor to Ford dealers, but the machine had no relation, other than the name, to the later Ford 5000 that followed it. Representing the culmination of years of improvements, the Fordson Supermajor was discontinued in 1963 as it was replaced by the short-lived New Performance Supermajor, right before Fordson tractor production was phased out in 1964. Did you ever hear about Satan's tractor? That's this one. The Farmall 666 was released in 1972, 1 year after the others in the 66 series. Why? The 656 was still selling so well that IH didn't want to interrupt production, so they delayed the successor's release. Available in gasoline or diesel and featuring a 5-speed transmission, the 666 tractor could be ordered with an optional torque amplifier and sold for right around $12,000, about $90,000 today. The 65 horsepower Farmall 666 came with most of the features offered on the larger 66 series tractor. Produced for 4 years, the model was discontinued in 1976 as it was replaced by the nearly identical 686. Carrying quite a controversial designation, the Farmall 666 was, for obvious reasons, often labeled as Satan's tractor or El Diablo by farmers. So who still runs one of these beauties? Let me know in the comments. The 630 is such a piece of history. Do you even know why? The paint was barely dry on its 20 series tractors when John Deere released the 30 series in 1958, a lineup that included the 630 model, a 44 horsepower unit replacing the 2-year-old 620 designation. The differences between the 620 and the 630 were mainly cosmetic, as the sides of the hood were given an angular bottom cut and painted solid yellow, while the numeric designation was moved up even with the brand lettering. Designed with an automotive-style layout, the 630 was made more comfortable than its predecessor thanks to a new seat design, and controls for the dual hydraulic system were cleaned up at the rear. But it's not why this series is so special. In 1960, John Deere discontinued the 630, which would also turn out to be the final year for the horizontal twin-cylinder engine, a company tradition since 1923. So who still runs one of these beauties? This is why the 4020 is possibly the best tractor ever. Introduced to market in 1963, John Deere's 4020 remains 6 decades later one of the best pieces of equipment ever produced. Pure classic, the 4020 is still one of the most talked about tractors ever. But why? Way ahead of its time in terms of safety, John Deere's 4020 featured a rollover protection structure which went from the top of the cab into the rear axle, protecting the lives of thousands of farmers who operated on steep terrain. On top of being one of the most reliable pieces of iron ever designed, the 4020's most innovative feature was its power shift transmission, a technology developed in the 50s, allowing for movement between gears without the clutch. The 4020 also provided operators new comfort thanks to updated features including deluxe seats and hydraulic controls, replacing cumbersome levers at the front of the cab. And this would pave the way for future designs. What a classic. Do you even know why we call a diesel engine a diesel? In the late 19th century, German engineer Rudolf Diesel gave himself a mission, creating an engine that would surpass the efficiency of steam engines, the dominant technology at the time, and so was born the diesel engine. In 1893, Rudolf Diesel came up with his first prototype, but faced countless challenges, including issues with fuel injection, as well as difficulties achieving the necessary compression. But things were about to get better. After spending 5 years refining his design, Diesel built in 1897 his first successful prototype running on peanut oil, showing a much higher efficiency than the contemporary steam engines. This would change the world forever. Completely transforming industries, Diesel's invention was soon adopted for various applications including marine propulsion, power generation, and eventually transportation and agriculture. But in 1913, Rudolf Diesel disappeared under mysterious circumstances while traveling to England. This is by far one of the most important tractors in farming history. When Allis-Chalmers released the WD45 in 1953, a revolution happened in the farming industry. Not only the 45 was the first Allis-Chalmers tractor available with power steering, it was also the most powerful tractor for its size. Selling for $2,400 at the time, the WD45 was available with various engine options including gasoline, tractor fuel, LP gas, and diesel, thanks to Allis acquiring Buda. The Allis-Chalmers WD45s could be ordered with a choice of 3 different front ends: single wheel, dual wheel tricycle, and wide track. Power-adjustable rear wheels allowed farmers to loosen 4 wheel bolts on each side to accommodate different row widths. Discontinued in 1957 and replaced by the D17, the Allis-Chalmers WD45 met a great market success as more than 83,000 gas units were sold, as well as 6,500 diesel models. This is what caused farming giant Oliver's sad downfall. With roots dating back to 1855, Oliver established itself as a pioneer in the farming equipment business up until the 1950s, when things started to take a turn for the worst for the firm out of South Bend, Indiana. Facing intense competition from John Deere, International Harvester, and Allis-Chalmers, Oliver merged with the White Motor Corporation in 1960, and sadly, things would go downhill only from there, as seen too often in the corporate world. Clearly outpaced, Oliver started releasing machines before they were really perfected, such as the 1855 tractor, known for its engine issues. In '74, the Oliver name was dropped and every machine was labeled as White. In 1985, White decided to shut down the original Oliver Chilled Plow Works factory. The once booming Oliver buildings remained vacant until 2002, when most were demolished to make way for an industrial park. And that was it. So who still runs a stunning Case 430? Modest extension of the popular 100 series, the 30 series was introduced to market by Case in 1960. Amazingly successful, the line of tractors included a reference that you may have heard of before, the 430. Smallest offering in the series, the 430 carried the same designation on the hood, even though several submodels were produced in the line. It made about 39 flywheel horsepower in early models and 45 horsepower for later units. In late '62, smaller 30 series tractors like the 430 introduced the new Draft-O-Matic hitch, the first draft sensing hitch offered by Case. Not exactly cheap, the 430 sold for about $4,400 in the mid-60s. Produced during rough financial times for J.I. Case, the 430 remained available through 1969, and more than 19,000 units were produced before the line was upgraded into the 470. Stunning piece of iron. Would you label the 21 Series Combines as iconic? Demerged from Tenneco less than a year prior, Case released in 1995 the 21 Series Combine Harvesters. Made of 3 distinct axial flow machines, the highly versatile series met a great success on the market. From the 180 horsepower 2144 to the 260 horsepower 2188, the line represented a significant step forward in the design, featuring a well-improved operator comfort and greater visibility. Third option in the series, the 2166 was powered by a 215 horsepower power plant and was designed with an unloading rate of approximately 2.2 bushels per second and a cleaning area of 5,400 square inches. In 1998, 3 years after its introduction, the 21 Series was upgraded to the 23 Series, this time including 4 models, with most upgrades mainly focusing on engine power and size of grain tanks. Alright, rate how good the 504 is on a scale of 1 to 10. Launched in 1961, the Farmall 504 replaced the 340 model, released 3 years earlier. Designed with a longer wheelbase, the brand new 504 weighed several hundred pounds more than its highly successful predecessor. Available with gas and LP gas power plants, the Farmall 504 could also be purchased with International's D188 diesel engine, able to deliver right around 46 PTO horsepower, 10 more than the 340. In 1961, you could buy a 504 for $3,800, the equivalent of $40,000 in today's money. A high-clearance version was produced, as well as the IH504 utility tractor and the IH2504 industrial tractor. In 1968, the line was discontinued and was replaced by the 544 designation, which would only sell 5,800 units after 5 years versus 15,000 units for the 504 after a 7-year run. These combines definitely changed farming forever, right? In 1975, New Holland introduced the concept of twin rotor technology on the TR70, which ended up changing the face of harvesting forever. The second generation appeared 4 years later in TR75, 85, and 95 formats. In 1984, farmers welcomed the third generation of the highly successful combines, as the TR designation would last until 1999, with the TR89 and TR99 models. In 2002, the CR series was introduced, featuring a new styling, longer rotors, and a larger cab. In 2007, the 8th generation, the CR Elevation series, was introduced with models rated up to 530 horsepower. In 2014, the record-breaking New Holland 1090 was first released, and in late 2023, the manufacturer unveiled its new flagship, the CR11, designed to take the 1090's legacy to a new level. This series triggered the death of International Harvester. A few days ago, we talked about how poor management and a touch of greed led to the downfall of International Harvester. But before all of this, the manufacturer committed a fatal commercial mistake known as the 86 series of tractors. Plagued with transmission and hydraulic systems issues, the problematic 86 series completely eroded customer confidence and satisfaction at a time where competitors such as John Deere had surpassed IH in the market. Forced to establish gigantic recall campaigns worldwide, International Harvester, already drowning in debt at the time, was also heavily criticized for the cramped operating conditions and poor ergonomics of the controversial 86 series. Out of touch with the market, no longer able to expand, and dealing with one of the longest strikes in recent industrial history, the 150-year-old brand disappeared as seen too often, which leads to the question, who's next? This is the story of old giant Minneapolis-Moline. Minneapolis-Moline was formed in 1929 through the merger of Minneapolis Steel and Machinery, Minneapolis Threshing Machine, and Moline Plow Company. The brand would quickly give birth to significant contributions to the farming industry. In 1938, Minneapolis-Moline introduced the UDLX Comfort Tractor, a highly modern tractor sporting the famous Prairie Gold paint job and designed with an enclosed cab for the operator, an innovative idea at the time. After releasing the famous unitractor in the early 1950s, Minneapolis-Moline launched the ZB series in 1953, the M series in 1960, and the six-cylinder G series started in 1954. But the market started to be too competitive for the brand. In the early 60s, Minneapolis-Moline reorganized under the name Motec, which would be acquired by White Motor Company in 1963. In '74, the Minneapolis-Moline name was dropped, and that was the end of it. This is what caused International Harvester's quick downfall. In 1977, Archie McCardell was named CEO of International Harvester, and the man came with a mission: improving profit margins and drastically cut costs, leading to massive layoffs. And so the downfall of the brand began. On November 2, 1979, one day after it was officially announced that McCardell had pocketed a $1.8 million bonus, an unprecedented strike was called. It would last for half a year. By the time the strike ended, the company had already lost $600 million, leaving International's finances at their lowest point ever. In 1982, a new chairman and CEO was appointed, but the damage was done. Unable to recover, International Harvester was sold to Tenneco in 1984, as the truck and engine divisions remained. In 1986, Harvester changed the corporate name to Navistar International Corporation, and that's how a giant disappeared. This is the story of the Moline Plow Company. Established in 1870 after a lengthy court battle with John Deere, the Moline Plow Company played a major role in agricultural advancements in the late 1800s, with products such as the three-wheel Flying Dutchman sulky plow. In 1900, the company ventured into gasoline engines, marking the beginning of its foray into mechanized farming, which paved the way for the Moline Universal Tractor, introduced in 1916 after Moline purchased the Universal Tractor Company. By 1918, Moline Plow was the fifth largest farm equipment company in the world, despite overextending itself during the war, a situation coupled with the agricultural depression of the early 1920s that would end up hurting the company badly. After buying the Milwaukee line of harvesting machinery in 1924, Moline Plow, Minneapolis Steel and Machinery, and Minneapolis Threshing Machine merged to form Minneapolis-Moline Power Implement in 1929, and a whole new story began. What other machine would you add to the list of the most iconic Case products? Released in 1986, the 1845C led Case's skid steer sales for years. Often labeled as unkillable, the 1845C made a name for itself thanks to its amazing robustness and reliability. In 1988, Case IH introduced the Magnum tractor, the first all-new machine to come from the combined engineering of International Harvester and Case. The tractor represents a major milestone in the brand's history. Introduced in 1957, the 310 was a small but powerful bulldozer that found extensive use in construction and agricultural tasks. Very compact but built as durable as it gets, the 310 is an icon in Case's glorious past. It shouldn't be a surprise to you to see the 580 backhoe loader in the list. Released in the late 1960s, the machine is by far Case's biggest global hit ever. So what should I add to this list? Let me know in the comments. So nothing runs like 500,000 Claas combines, right? It's been exactly 88 years since Claas introduced its very first combine bearing the serial number 1. Almost 1 century later, the German manufacturer reached an amazing milestone after delivering its 500,000th combine. Out of 500,000 machines the Dominator introduced in 1976 and the Lexion first unveiled in 1995 account for the largest share of those impressive sales with 100,000 and 75,000 units respectively. Also very successful, the Super and Super Automatic models represent 13% of those sales with 65,000 units sold, while both Europa and Columbus combine Harvester's total, right around 60,000 units. The famous combines made their way onto U.S. farms over the past decades under different names such as the Dominator 98 and 108, available in Massey Ferguson red, as the 8450 and 8460 back in the late 80s. How many of these surprising John Deere facts did you know about? More than just a branding choice, the John Deere colors mean much more than you probably think. While the green color is believed to symbolize the land and agriculture, The contrasty yellow represents the crops that are harvested. Did you know that JD ventured into the bicycle market? In the early 1970s, the company produced bicycles carrying the Leaping Deer badge as the company expanded its recreational product line, which also included products such as snowmobiles. Much more surprising maybe, John Deere also played a role in the moon landing as the company's technology was used in the design and manufacturing of the tires for the lunar roving vehicle used during the Apollo 15, 16, and 17 missions. Many believe John Deere started out as a tractor brand when, in fact, JD's first product was a polished steel plow, which was a revolution at the time thanks to its ability to handle the tough prairie soil of the Midwest without clogging. So who thinks this is the best series of tractors ever produced? Sometimes manufacturers will release something big, something that will later be remembered as a legendary machine or a legendary series. And this is definitely what happened when International Harvester launched the 66 series of tractors. Released in 1971, the 66 series included 5 models ranging from the 80 horsepower 766 to the 160 horsepower 1566 unit, a 12,000-pound turbocharged beast. The line also included models such as the $18,000 966, the highly popular 1066, and the 145 horsepower 1466, making it one of the most successful series of all time. In 1976, IH discontinued the entire series and replaced it with the 86 series, which brought several improvements and updates over the previous line, such as more modern body style, upgraded cabs, and enhanced engine performance. These are 4 POS tractors, would you agree? Released in 1961 and produced for 3 years, the Ford 6000 tractor was supposed to be a revolution, but the machine was quickly recalled by Ford due to a number of problems, including constant select-to-speed transmission issues. 4 years before the 6000, the Farmall 560 was also recalled because of problems due to the final drive not being strong enough to handle the power of the engine. A massive replacement program would fix it all, thankfully. If you think about weak hydraulics and underpowered engine, you instantly think about John Deere's 2010 model released in 1960 and produced for 5 years. The tractor was later upgraded to the 46 horsepower 2020. Did IH poorly executed the 2+2 concept? Released in 1978 with models such as the 3588, the design faced severe front axle issues, but it is now kindly remembered and labeled as just misunderstood. Could this be the best Walker Combine ever designed? A couple days ago, John Deere unveiled the new T6800 Walker Combine, described as a game changer in harvesting technology, providing farmers the tools they need to enhance productivity and efficiency in the field. Featuring the latest precision technology, the new 392 horsepower machine offers, at least on paper, a faster unloading rate, improved efficiency, and a larger and much quieter cab. But let's go through more technical details. Performing better than previous models, the John Deere T6800's grain tank is nearly a quarter larger and is able to unload 20% faster. The unloading speed at peak performance reaches up to 150 liters per second or 10 tons of grain in 90 seconds. The feeder house, which has been designed to the same width as the rest of the crop channel, greatly eliminates flow restrictions throughout the machine. So what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Would you say these were the best axial flow combines ever made? In 1977, International Harvester launched the 14 series of axial flow combines in North America after spending 20 years developing the concept. Highly acclaimed right off the bat, the series set a new standard in the industry. First consisting of 2 models, the 14 lineup was released in Europe in 1979 after intensive field testings to perfect the machine's performance in higher moisture, heavier strawed European conditions. The most famous combine out of the whole series was the 1460, a mid-sized offering greatly awarded for its advanced technology at the time, and now seen as a key model in the transition to modern combine harvesters. In 1985, the 14 series left place to the 16 series after IH and Case merged, but 5 decades after its market introduction, the axial flow concept is still going strong and still making significant impact on agriculture. This tractor generates 5,000 foot-pounds of torque. Do you know what that means? In 1905, Case released the 150, also known as the road locomotive. Designed beefy, the machine was the most powerful steam tractor at the time. Only 9 units were ever produced until one man decided to build his own. Fascinated by the Case 150 from a very young age, Corey Anderson couldn't live with the idea that all 150s ever produced were long gone. So in 2017, the talented guy and many volunteers turned a dream into a reality. After 15,000 hours of hard work, the 35-ton, 150-horsepower steam tractor was shown off during the legendary engine pull in Rolag, Minnesota, back in 2019. But Corey's stunning replica was about to break another record. In September 2022, the Case 150 set a new world record after plowing with 50 bottom plows in Andover, South Dakota. The amazing tractor generates an astonishing 5,000 foot-pounds of torque. So who thinks nothing beats a good old 70s Versatile? In 1966, Versatile became the first company to mass-produce articulated four-wheel drive tractors, and 12 years later, the Canadian manufacturer released the 4-model Constant Power series, which included the 935. Largest offering in the batch, the 935 four-wheel drive tractor was powered by a 14.8-liter Cummins diesel engine rated at 330 horsepower. The articulated beast was built in Winnipeg. In 1978, a 12-speed Versatile 935 cost close to $113,000, the equivalent of $543,000 in today's money, which translates to more than $1,600 per horse. Hefty. 4 years after being introduced to market, the Versatile 935 was discontinued. It was replaced by the 936, which to many out there was seen as a significant downgrade from the old 935 model. Who's ever done 150 miles per hour in a tractor? In June 2019, British giant JCB set its first Guinness World Record for the fastest tractor with the recorded speed of 103.6 miles per hour using a tractor labeled as the Fast Track 1. But that record wouldn't last very long. A few months only after this achievement, JCB unveiled the Fast Track 2, a tractor designed stronger, more streamlined, and 10% lighter than its predecessor, fully built by a team of young JCB engineers. With motorcycle racer Guy Martin at the wheel, the JCB Fast Track 2 completely murdered the first record at Elvington Airfield in November 2019, with a peak speed of 153 miles per hour and an average speed of 135 miles per hour. JCB is no stranger to breaking world records since the land speed record for diesel-powered cars was set in 2006 with JCB's Diesel Max, which achieved 350 miles per hour. Would you get this with the Detroit 60 or the Cummins N14? In 1991, McConnell Mark out of North Carolina released the 900 model, a tractor powered by a Detroit Diesel Series 60 engine rated at 320 horsepower. 3 years later, the machine would become the Agcostar 8360. Slightly redesigned, the impressive four-wheel drive tractor was repowered with a Cummins N14 engine, rated at 360 horsepower, supplying an 18-speed transmission. Produced for 6 years, the Agcostar 8360 was made available with 3 paint options, including Massey Red, Allis Orange, or White Silver. The tractor featured a big cab known for its great visibility and quietness. Built in Coldwater, Ohio, the Agcostar 8360 was discontinued in 2001. Pretty much seen as a collectible piece of iron these days, it typically sells for well above $70,000 at auction for units with low hours. It costs a fortune to rebuild, but this is still an outstanding baler. In 1974, Pennsylvanian manufacturer New Holland entered the round baler market, invented 3 years earlier, after introducing the 850 model designed with chain and slat fixed chamber. And this baler would pave the way for tons of New Holland products yet to come. The 850 round baler produced bales with an average length of 68 inches and an average diameter of 68 inches as well. Hay bales weighed anywhere from 1,500 to 1,900 pounds. Known to be good in most crops, the innovative New Holland 850 produced firm bales with a very distinct shaggy appearance as the round baler quickly became a key implement for dairy farmer and ranchers for putting up hay. 32 years after releasing the 850 model, New Holland had already produced and delivered more than 200,000 round balers to customers. The 850 could produce a half-ton bale in about 3 minutes, quite a performance at the time. So who ran a 585 with a backhoe attachment? Part of the well-known 85 series, the Case IH 585 tractor was released in 1985 as a replacement to the 584, which became a Case product after Tenneco purchased the International Farm Equipment line a few months earlier. Built in Doncaster, England, the 585 was labeled as a utility tractor, and the machine was sold for $20,000 when it came out, the equivalent of just about 58,000 bucks in today's money. Rated at 60 horsepower through a Case IH D206 diesel engine, the 585 was made available as two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive models with an operating weight of 5,600 pounds or 2.5 metric tons. After 5 years of good service, the Case IH 585, sometimes seen with a backhoe attachment, was replaced in 1990 by the 595 model, which shared a lot of similar features as the good old 585 tractor. This is the most important track-type tractor design ever. In 1919, CL Best introduced the 60 track layer, a track-type tractor that happened to be the largest of its era. After the merger between Best and Benjamin Holt, the machine would later become the Caterpillar 60. Instantly popular, the 60 was part of the construction of the Hoover Dam in the western United States and even participated in the construction of the original Hollywood sign. The tractor's lineage is directly linked to the Cat D8 dozer. The most famous 60 out there was definitely Old Tusco, a diesel unit powered by a Cat D 9900 rated at 79 horsepower that would set records in 1932 for non-stop plowing achievements in Arlington, Oregon. 1 century after the very first 60 was built, most agree that the machine remains the most important track-type tractor design ever produced by Caterpillar, making it one of the most collectible machines in the world today. So who's got a chance to run this one with a Detroit 371 in it? 1940 was a fantastic year for J.I. Case, which introduced the LA Tractor, a sturdy machine that would end up being part of the manufacturer's catalog for well over 1 decade, with an average of 3,000 units produced annually. Rated at 51 horsepower, the LA model was the largest Case tractor when it came out. Built in Racine, Wisconsin, the stout piece of iron was designed to pull up to 5 plows and was powered with a 6.6-liter engine. Running with a 4-speed transmission, the Case LA replaced the L series and was basically an updated version of the L that could be ordered with some of the most modern options at the time, such as PTO, electric start, and hood sides. Often a candidate for repowering with a Detroit diesel 371 engine, the LA was discontinued in 1953 after more than 35,000 units were produced. It was replaced by the 500 model the same year. A backhoe attachment on a crawler loader? Deere did it. John Deere's 450C was introduced to market in 1973 as a replacement to the 450B, produced between 1970 and 1972. Sitting on a 450 dozer frame, the machine became one of JD's best-selling crawler loaders ever. Rated at 70 horsepower, the 450C could be equipped with a light material bucket or a 1.25 cubic yard multi-purpose bucket. It also featured hydraulic track adjustment and vandal protection. With an operating weight of 7.5 metric tons, the John Deere 450C could be purchased with tons of optional attachments such as ripper, log, and lumber fork, winch, or a complete backhoe setup as seen right here. In 1982, Deere discontinued the crawler loader after 9 years of good service. 42 years after production stopped, it's not rare to come across one of these on a construction project or a farm, still going strong. This thing sold for $238,000 back in 1998. Built since the late 1980s, Caterpillar's Challenger tractors were developed with one goal: solving the problem of steel-tracked crawlers and move away from them for agricultural applications due to the transport issues. The most powerful unit ever released by Cat was the Challenger 95E, introduced in 1997, a 410 horsepower machine part of a line of tractors which included models such as the 85E, 75E, or 65E. The clever special application drive wheel on the 95E featured tapered drive slots between drive elements, allowing mud and debris to extrude through the wheel, eliminating slippage in most sloppy and muddy field conditions. Marketed in Europe as Claas since 1997, the entire Challenger track tractor business was sold in 2002, exactly 1 year after the 95E model was discontinued by the American manufacturer. Do you remember sitting on Daddy's lap riding a 446? Introduced in 1972, the Case 446 garden tractor was part of the highly successful 400 series, styled to emulate the 70 series of tractors released in 1969. Cute-looking, these were workhorses around the house. Powered by a 16-horsepower Onan engine, the 446 featured a cast steel front axle and could be mounted with a wide range of attachments such as a dozer blade or even a snowblower. In 1977, the 446's style was upgraded to Case's famous Power Red as the Desert Sunset paint disappeared, but the tractor remained pretty much the same machine with its 3-gallon tank and its weight of 700 pounds. In 1983, Ingersoll purchased the garden tractor division from Case, but kept the machines unchanged during a 3-year transition period. By 1987, the original branding was gone, but the legacy remained intact. So would you take 10 grand or a fully restored Massey Super 90? Unlike countless Massey Fergusons that we could easily label as common or easy to come by, the Super 90 is a rarity in the beautiful little world of tractors, and Tom Crawford, who owns this one right here, is quite a lucky guy. Often seen as a pregnant MF-35, the Super 90 was built from 1962 and was sold brand new for $6,077 back in the day, the equivalent of $62,000 in today's standards. Available with Perkins or Continental engines rated right around 77 horsepower, the row crop Super 90 was a highly modern piece of equipment when it came out, featuring power assist steering or independent dry disc brakes. In 1965, Massey discontinued the Super 90, which was essentially the same machine as the MF-90. So, if you were offered a fully restored unit, would you take it over 10 grand in cash? Answer in the comments. Just try to guess the price of this insane John Deere sugarcane harvester. First launched in Brazil in 2020, the John Deere CH960 hit the Australian market 2 years later with one goal: boosting sugarcane harvest productivity with a brand new industry-leading 2-row harvester, but that ain't cheap. Looking quite simple from the outside, the CH960 was designed to double production in dry conditions compared to a regular sugarcane harvester, while maintaining a 50% increase in productivity in wet conditions. But for how much? The machine cost 2 million Australian dollars, just about 1.25 million US dollars. This was John Deere's most expensive machine available before the introduction of the 9 RX 830 a few months ago. But why? Requiring countless patents and a huge amount of engineering, the CH960 is able to process 120 tons of sugarcane per hour, 12 hours a day for 100+ days straight. So in other words, that's the price to pay for unprecedented productivity. The world's biggest tractor is on the way, and you'll be able to see it in June. For the past 30 years, the small town of Carnama in Western Australia has been waiting for a unique project to be completed: the construction of the world's largest tractor. But you guessed it, we're not talking about an operational machine. Designed to be the world's biggest steel tractor sculpture, the project was entirely funded through donations, which includes a generous 100,000 Australian dollar contribution from a local John Deere dealer. But what tractor are we talking about? Taking well over 4,000 man-hours to build, the sculpture replicates an Australian Chamberlain tractor, 5 times the size of the original machine. Weighing 40 tons, the stunning piece will be 36 feet high and 56 feet long. After years of struggle, the world's largest tractor sculpture is now expected to be completed by June 2024, despite a $60,000 funding shortfall. It will be proudly displayed in the heart of Carnama. Who doesn't love the sound of 2 Detroit Diesel 671s? This is the face of a genius. This dude built, starting from the 1980s, one of the craziest custom tractors you'll ever get to see. A 6-wheel drive articulated Chamberlain powered by a pair of Detroit 671 engines, each rated at 230 horsepower. Using a regular 2-wheel drive tractor as a base, this man spent thousands of hours welding what would become a perfectly usable machine in Australia's endless fields. Able to pull a 62-foot seeder, the 18-ton custom Chamberlain only cost $12,000 to build back in the day, possibly making it one of the cheapest working tractors ever when it comes to price per horsepower ratio. Work in progress for many years, the custom Chamberlain tractor has proven itself to be a stunning workhorse in the fields, far exceeding the amazing owner's initial expectations when it comes to production and reliability. Pure work of art.